Hello. Hey, everyone. Welcome. How's everyone doing today? Welcome to our Facebook Live, voicelessons.com. Hi, I'm Mike Elson, founder of voicelessons.com. With me, I have Dr. Matthew Edwards. Matt, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, it's good to have you again. And to jump in, we've got some questions that come in. So let's jump into a couple questions that came in over the week. First one. Just so everyone's tuning in, we've got a couple other channels we're pushing out now to YouTube. So this first question comes in from Judy. She says, do you have any replays of your lives? 7 p.m. Eastern time is 1 a.m. in Germany. So for our international viewers, yes, we have a YouTube channel. And so we'll drop that link in here in just a moment, but it's Voice Lessons app. So it's youtube.com/voicelessonsapp. So we'll drop that link in the chat. And let's jump into our first question. All right, Matt?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Let me switch around here. Boop. Okay, so first question coming in. This is from Karen. She writes in, how do you sing with different dynamic levels? Great question. Thanks, Karen.
Yeah, so, there's a lot that comes into play in this. The first thing is that everyone has a dynamic range, and we hear it just in regular speaking from when people speak softer, when people, yell or call out to somebody. Now, it's always important to point out, though, that recordings are often compressed. And what that means is that they use they have an analog system that does this as well. Now, most of the time it's done digitally, but they have basically a little app, a plugin that helps us put a ceiling on how loud we want the sound to be, and then you can turn up the bottom. So basically squishes the dynamic range from being wide to being rather narrow. And they use this on every kind of recording there is. Very heavily used in pop recordings. Will be used somewhat in folk and jazz. I'll use often a little less. And they even do use compression even on recordings from the Metropolitan Opera. So when you're listening to a recording, one of the big mistakes is sometimes people think that the singer is singing at the same volume level the entire time, and that's just not true. It might sound that way, but it sounds that way because of compression. Now, in a room acoustically with another singer nearby, what the singer is going to need to do to change up their dynamics is alter the pressure with which their vocal folds are closed together, which we use terms like registration. And then they're going to want to regulate the breath pressure and flow that's going between the vocal folds. So it's a combination of the respiratory system and the vocal folds. And then you can make changes to your resonance or everything above the vocal folds to also amplify sounds. Now, in general, our ears do not hear all frequencies equally. All right? There's actually a hearing curve. And what it shows you is that lower frequencies sound quieter to us than the middle frequencies, and the high frequencies sound louder to us than the middle frequencies. So you can look up the hearing amplitude curve, and you should be able to find it online and be able to look at what these variations are. So basically what that means is if you have a really low pitch at, let's say 80 decibels, a speech-like pitch at 80 decibels, and then a high pitch like up off the top of the piano at 100 decibels, that's going to sound like the loudest sound, even though everything else is equal, measurement-wise. So that information tells us that when the voice has a brighter vowel, it's going to appear louder. And when the voice has a warmer vowel, it's usually going to appear a little bit quieter. right? And so that's another strategy that we can use. So let's start at that vocal fold level. The vocal folds are brought together with little joints in the back called the arytenoids. And the arytenoids help swing the vocal folds together or help swing them open so you can inhale. Now, there's muscles that help pull those arytenoids together and help pull the vocal folds together. And if those vocal folds are closed together firmly, you are going to get more power coming out of the voice. So it's going to be what we call more of a chest dominant sound. It's buzzy, like has a lot of buzzy quality to it. Now, if I relax those muscles that bring the vocal folds together, it's going to get breathier. And as you notice, that breathier sound is quieter. So the amount of what we call adduction, the amount of closure of those vocal folds is going to be one of the first things that regulates how loud or quiet we are. And you want to develop the ability to change in between those different dynamics. So you want to be able to sing on any given pitch a really solid, buzzy sound, and a really light and airy sound, Then you want to be able to go between the two, And it's going to get quieter the breathier you go, and it's going to get a little bit louder the buzzier you go. Now, if you want to kick it up another notch, you can then start to increase the breath pressure or flow depending on what mode you're in. If I'm in a more chest dominant mode, then it's going to be more about increasing pressure. When I contract my abs in, it puts more air pressure up at the vocal folds. It parts them more in each vibrational cycle, and you're going to get more sound. But if I'm in more of a soft mode, that if I contract my abs, I send more air through the sound. And that airflow is going to make it sound louder. Now, yeah, the vocal folds might start to vibrate a little bit more than they were when I was just in that less air pressure mode. So there's a lot of nuance to all of this. But so I can, contract my abs to increase the sound, and either, again, with more pressure in a chest dominant sound or more flow in a head dominant sound. And then, again, I can play with my vowels. So the more I open up my mouth, it's usually going to give me more bright frequencies, and it's going to help me get more sound out. Versus a closed vowel. That closed vowel darkens things up a little bit, and the open vowel brightens things up a bit. And again, that brighter vowel quality is going to have more of those upper frequencies that our ears are more sensitive to. And the round or closed vowel quality is going to have less of those upper frequencies, as that rounding of the lips actually cuts those frequencies off. So when you combine all of those things together, that's how you're going to vary up your dynamics. So on the vocal tract side, what you want to do is make sure that you're singing every vowel when you're vocalizing, both closed and open. So doing exercises where you're going, oh, and big and open. Oh, or do it on ahs. Ah, versus ah. And getting your vocal tract used to making those different shapes is going to be another thing that's going to help you. And then on the abdominal contraction, what I want you to do is to breathe in and feel like that rib cage expands. And then as you maintain that expansion, you're going to relax your abdominal wall, and you're going to start with a hiss. And then I want you to contract your abs and release them. Contract and release as you hiss. So we're going to get every time you contract those abs in, you're going to hear that extra air come out. And again, that's training your motor system for how to engage that abdominal musculature to get that acoustic boost as well. Okay, so the respiratory system, abdominal wall, the vocal fold level, and the amount of closure, and the vocal tract, how open or closed the vowel is, which is going to accentuate brights and lows.
Awesome. That's a great breakdown. Karen, really hope that helps you out. And let's jump into our next question. All right, so next question comes in from Kariana. She writes in, how can I get better at understanding my voice?
Yeah, so Kariana, this is a good question that came in. And I will take a minute here to tell you about a new course that we have. Because when I saw this, I thought, well, this is, we do have something for you on this. Mike asked me a couple years ago to put together an online course called How the Voice Works. And so you can check it out. There's the web address for you to look it up. This is a 4-hour course that's going to do exactly what you're asking. It's going to walk you through the entire instrument, and I break it down into simple terms. In fact, a little bit simpler than sometimes I talk about on the show. But what I do is I first introduce you to the structure of your instrument, which is your skeleton. And when you understand how the skeleton is supposed to be balanced, and you learn stretches for your upper body and your lower body to get any muscles out of the way that are tight and bending you in an unoptimal position, you're going to get better alignment, better balance, and that better balance will put your instrument into a better place to give you whatever sounds it is that you're looking for. Then I go through and I talk about the respiratory system, and you're going to learn how the respiratory system actually works, how the intercostal muscles work, how the diaphragm works, and how your abdominal wall works, and the variations that you can use with belly in, belly out breathing, the combined approach. We'll also talk a little bit about body type and how body type affects things. Then we go on, we talk about the vocal folds. I'm going to show you how the vocal folds work. You're going to get to be able to have see, videos where there's a strobe inside somebody's mouth and they're inside of their nose looking down at the vocal folds, and they sing, and I'll walk you through and show you what's happening in those videos so you have a better idea of what is actually happening in your throat when you make sound. And then I'm going to give you exercises to practice, so you can start training your body for those different modes of vibration, chest, head, and mix, as well as showing you a walkthrough of how to sing like you speak. So those exercises will keep you busy for quite a while. Then we'll move on and show you what to do with your vocal tract. The vocal tract is everything from the vocal folds up to the opening of the lips. I'm going to talk to you about constriction. That's that narrowing throat sometimes, or narrowing feeling you sometimes get in your throat. I'm going to talk to you about the soft palate, how it moves, and I'm even going to show you MRI images so you get X-ray vision of what is actually happening when the soft palate moves. I'm going to then talk to you about the tongue and different ways to keep your tongue active, to keep it out of the way so you don't have tension there. I'm also going to go through and show you some ways to get rid of jaw tension as well, and then talk to you about the different lip positions. And throughout this, I've got listening examples for you. There's a 100-page workbook that goes with it. I've got some guided listening videos where you watch some famous singers and I go through and help you analyze what they're doing so you can start to connect function to sound. So, I put this together because I really do think that there wasn't anything like this on the marketplace that was backed by science, that was out there for people to check out. So I didn't have people would ask me this question. I didn't have a great resource to recommend. I have books that I like, but a lot of times some of those books get a little more sciencey, a little more heavy duty than a lot of singers are looking for. And so I tried to simplify things down, to not get into the super complex, but to give you a really good understanding about how your instrument works. If you play in a band, you're a keyboardist is going to be able to tell you everything about the keyboard, how it hooks into, his effects, or where it hooks into his computer, and how he can, schedule his or, program his patches, etc. If you ask the guitarist about their instrument, they can tell you how they're going to adjust the bridge, how they're going to adjust, their tuners and put locking tuners on it, and how they're going to vary up the gauge of each string to get the sound that they want. You talk to a drummer and man, they'll keep you busy all day. My brother's a drummer. My best friend used to be a drummer, and he had every toy, knew how everything worked, was always tweaking and doing that. You ask most singers what they're doing and they're like, I don't know, I just sing. And that's always struck me as a problem, right? You want to be in a band and know as much about your instrument as everybody else that you're playing with. And that's the whole point of this course. So go on and check it out. It's How the Voice Works. There's a webinar if you want to check it out. It's on a special launch price that we're going to be reining in soon as we're starting to hit the mark of the first seats that we were giving away at the special price of $47. This is 4 hours of content. We didn't film it in our bedroom. We filmed it actually in a studio in Hollywood before COVID hit. And so professionally produced, high quality, 4 hours of video. It's broken down into smaller modules so you can go through there at your own pace. And you have lifetime access to it. So you'll always be able to go back in. You can ask questions. I'll come in, comment, and respond. But I think that's going to be one of the best ways for you to start and getting the better understanding of your voice so you can take your singing to the next level.
Awesome. Absolutely. Carry on. It's a great course. And I'm not just saying that because we made it, but actually we spent so much time breaking it down and putting it at a level that we felt that most singers would want to at least understand these basics. So without giving out too much more, Matt, we do these live ones. So keep coming back to the live. You'll definitely learn a lot through the live, but the course, How the Voice Works, check out that link that we just dropped in there, and that gives you a really good breakdown of how the instrument works. So jumping into our third question today, this one comes in from Gabrielle. They write in, How can one use head voice? What a great question.
Yeah.
Break this one down for us.
So, well, there's a lot of ways that you can use head voice. And I think that that's, one of the tricks here is that sometimes people think some of these vocal modes are just one thing. So I'm going to cover a few just to show you how versatile some of these different sounds are that we make and how they can benefit you. I might miss a few things. I'm sure there's other ways that you can use head voice that I'm not going to touch on. If you're a pop singer, first of all, you will use head voice a lot. Just in your singing, right? So I think about like Olivia Rodrigo's driver's license. I got my driver's license last week. It's got that light, breathy sound. That's got some head register mixed into it, right? If you look at Britney Spears, I think it's anytime she goes, look at me, da da da.
We're gonna have to do a reaction video on this.
Yeah, right. But it's got this like really breathy sound. So that's a use of it in performance. And, as just a pure performance sound, it's usually used for intimate settings, right? We can talk about circles of perceived distance from whoever you're singing the song to or singing the song about. So if it's an intimate moment, that's usually having some sort of an intimate conversation takes place with somebody who's maybe 1 to 2 foot away from you. A personal conversation is going to take place in something that's maybe like 2 to 6 feet away, right? It's in your personal space. Then we start getting into social space, which is more of like, 6 to 9 feet. And then we get into public space, which is more like 9 plus. All right. So you're not going to sing breathy for a song that's meant to be in a public space. Like if you think about, because Baby, You're a Firework, and it's this big epic anthem, Katy Perry, that's for a public audience. That's not for an intimate audience. So your breathy voice isn't going to work there. It's going to work better in that intimate setting. So your love songs are going to use this breathy vocal quality. Lullabies are going to use a breathy quality. The other place that we hear breathy singing is when you're in a really low energy emotional state of being where you would struggle to, produce a full voice. So these would be like a song of mourning, a song of something really bad happening. All right. So those really low moments in life are going to require more of that quality of sound than a big, joyous, bright belt quality. And there's exceptions to all of this. So, just in pure singing, that's where we could use the head voice. Now, we talk about using head voice in vocalizing a lot because you have 4 muscles that are always involved when you sing. It's really actually 5 if you really add in the posterior cricoarytenoid. So the muscles are, here, I'll pull out my larynx real quick to show you. You have this cricothyroid muscle. It's on the front of your larynx. We'll just cover the larynx real quick. This is your trachea. You have a cricoid cartilage at the bottom, and on top of that sits this thyroid cartilage. And then this is the hyoid bone, and your hyoid bone connects to your tongue, and then that's what helps suspend your larynx. And of course, down here it's connected to your lungs. Now, in here, we have these little joints here that are called arytenoids, and those arytenoids attach to the vocal folds. And the vocal folds in the front of your neck, if you feel that little bump, it's traditionally been called the Adam's apple or Eve's apple. If you touch where that little bump is, that is the front connection point of the vocal folds, and then they go straight back. And inside of your larynx, there's all these muscles that help control what the vocal folds do. This one, the cricothyroid muscle, when it contracts, it elongates the vocal folds. That's how you get high notes. The muscle that's in the vocal folds is trying to counteract that pull of the cricothyroid muscle, and it's going to try to shorten the folds. That's the thyroarytenoid muscle. Then we have muscles that help pull the vocal folds together, which is going to give us more power to our sound, and that's this muscle down here on the side. It's really hard to see on camera. It's called the lateral cricoarytenoid muscle, and then we have the inner arytenoid muscle here. And those muscles close those vocal folds together. And then when you want to lighten up and start to open your vocal folds, this one right here, this posterior cricoarytenoid muscle, it gets involved to start to open the folds up. And then the lateral cricoarytenoid and inner arytenoid muscle work against it to control how far the vocal folds are relaxed apart. So you want to be singing in this breathy quality to remind your body that those muscles are supposed to be able to relax open. Because if you only go for big, loud sounds, eventually those vocal folds can get so used to closing firmly together, you won't be able to relax it. You'll start to lose your ability to mix. Just as it's important for you to make sure that you're doing chest register exercises to make sure that your body knows how to pull the folds together, right? There is one school of thought on teaching singing that you want to approach everything from the top down, meaning you're always using that light quality and bringing it down low. That, I think, is a reaction to a Germanic way of singing that happened back in Wagner era, which goes back into the 19th and early 20th century. And the music was getting really big and loud. Opera singers were really letting their voices rip. And of course, you had belters who were first starting to come out onto the scene, and there was really negative thoughts about belters that all had to do with racist stereotypes of Black Americans who sang that way as well. And so there was a school of voice teachers who started saying you should never touch the chest voice; it's bad, because they were afraid of you getting hurt if you were singing Wagner or Verdi, and of course, then because of it being associated with shout singing, they didn't want that for racist reasons. And so they started talking about head down. Everything's about the head voice down, head voice down. Well, to balance out a voice, yeah, you want head voice down. But if you never teach those vocal folds to close, you're going to run into the same problem as if you never teach them to relax, right? Your body will become imbalanced and you're going to have problems. So when you're vocalizing in this light mechanism, you're teaching your body to, let go of some of the tension. And it's going to be, in the middle of your range to start. Ah, do it on oh. Just trying to teach your body that you can make sound without having to overly engage the folds. And you're going to want to take that up and down throughout your range. And, you can take it way up into the upper part of your range. What in a testosterone dominant voice we'd often call falsetto. Sometimes people call it head voice. And in an estrogen dominant voice, it would still be up here, maybe an octave higher than what I just did. I'm not going to get much higher than that today in allergy season. But if you go up into that part of your voice, you get that breathy soprano sound. That's also head voice as well, and that really elongates the vocal folds. So head voice in the upper part of your range is really good for elongating the folds, right? Remember I said that cricothyroid muscle is going to kick in and engage, and when it does engage, it pulls those vocal folds longer. And as it pulls those vocal folds longer, it's also going to stretch what's called the vocal ligament that runs inside your vocal folds. And we want to stretch that vocal ligament out because ligaments, like any other part of our, ligaments in any other part of our body can get stiff, especially with aging. So we want to make sure that that ligament isn't getting stiff. And so being in that upper part of your range is really important. Now, at the same time, like I said, we're trying to teach the body that those vocal folds can relax a bit. Well, the other reason we would want to use that mode of singing would be to get rid of tensions in the vocal tract. So when we go to sing, what happens is, especially if it's in a more chest dominant mode, a more powerful vocal quality, we hold our vocal folds firmly together. That's part of what gives us that power and what gives us that buzz. And when we do that, air pressure can build up underneath, and that air pressure can start to lift your larynx up. And as your larynx lifts up, sometimes what will happen is what are called the constrictor muscles. The muscles that line the vocal tract will start to squeeze. And as they start to squeeze, they're going to interfere with your singing. And it can mess with your pitch, it can mess with your tone quality, it can mess with everything, right? The volume level as well. So one of the ways, so now we've talked on the show before about there's all kinds of ways, like to sing up at the sky like you're howling at the moon or swallowing a sword. We've talked about tongue articulation exercises. We've talked about the silent laugh. We've talked about the masseter muscle release. We've talked about making sure your alignment is good. We've talked about controlling the respiratory system. We've talked about registration. Well, in this form of registration, we've talked about it mainly as just making sure it's balanced. But when you're looking at pure head voice and how to use it, you can use that to retrain your body to let go of those constrictors, because when you're in a head mode, there's more air coming through your folds. Your larynx isn't going to move up in the same way. And since your larynx isn't lifting up, those constrictors won't engage. Those constrictors tend to engage when your larynx lifts because that's part of swallowing. See, when you swallow, you close your vocal folds firmly together, air pressure builds up beneath your larynx, it starts to lift your larynx up, the constrictors engage to guide food down into your esophagus. So your body thinks that firm vocal fold closure equates to swallowing, and it tries to engage some of the same muscles. So taking a difficult phrase, in here and trying to get the constrictor muscles to release, you could sing just in head voice. So I'm going to take like Amazing Grace. We do Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. And I can feel any constriction or weird tongue things or jaw things that are going on when I'm in that head mode. And then I can adjust those. So if I got Amazing Grace, I can hear that tongue's really jammed up. So I could free that tongue. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. And get everything free. Then slowly start to bring a little bit more chest into the mix. Amazing Grace, how sweet the sound. and keep adding chest until I find the balance that I want. Right? So in that way, we can use head register to start to let go of tension. And if you're trying to learn how to riff, a lot of times people will be struggling to get their riffs really fast, and they'll think that it's something that they're, doing wrong with, some form of tension in the vocal tract. If that's the case, break your riff down and put it in head voice. So if you're trying to do, hey, and it feels slow, hey, it's slow because you got so much weight on those folds. So if you try doing it in head voice, hey, see, it gets through it a lot quicker. Hey, right? So we can start in that head voice quality, get that moving along, and then again, start to reintroduce a little bit more vocal fold closure and see if you can maintain that freedom in the instrument. So, lots of different ways that you can use head voice in your training, and that'll give you some ways to, go play with and think about. And as I said, it is important to make sure, though, that you're working both registers equally. We want to make sure that your body is capable of singing in that airy head dominant quality throughout your range and the chest dominant quality in the healthy, capable part of your range. You're going to be able to take head register higher than pure chest, even higher than mix, right? And remember, pure chest stops at about E or F above middle C. So when we're belting, we're going to carry it above that. But we want to start mixing usually for most voices around B. All right. There's exceptions to that. But, if you're working with a pro coach, teacher, you'll be able to learn how to navigate that and find out if your voice is capable of carrying chest higher or not. Everyone's different. So we got to work with you as an individual. It's kind of hard to just discuss in the show.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a lot of great different things you can do with the head voice, both an exercise sound as well as a texture, something you can use actually into style your music when you're singing. So we have a couple questions, Matt, that came in.
Yeah.
Hold those to the end, or you want to take a question?
Well, let's take it since they're here. We can do Jordan's question.
Yeah. Okay, so Jordan writes in, do you recommend any specific daily exercises that should always be done as a musical theater singer? Great question.
All right. So, Jordan, I'll give you some of my secrets here. So first of all is doing what we just talked about, making sure that every day you're warming up and getting that chest and head working all throughout your range. So taking chest going, yeah, 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 taking it up until it starts to get tight, then you take it back down. Then taking head voice down. So that I'm weaving both sounds through the middle. All right. Then I want to take the starting with like chest sound and on a single pitch, back off into breathy and then back into chest. So going, doing that throughout my range and then doing the opposite. Is that's coordinating those vocal folds to be able to move in between these qualities, which is a music theater person, that's what you're going to need. You're going to need that ability, okay? Then the next thing what we're going to do is want to go through and vocalize on bright vowels and closed vowels, okay? So we're going to do yeah, 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 no, 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 no. All right, we're just going to go through and get our body activated, realizing we can do bright and dark. Yeah, 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 no, 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 no. Yeah, 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 no, 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 no. Yeah, 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 no, 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 no. Just work up and down, awaken your body to making all those sounds. Then what I like to do is take my singers through a series of exercises where we make sure that the different parts of their mechanism are capable of moving, that they're not getting locked. So first I like to do a larynx series where we do a hootie vowel to keep the larynx low. So I tell my students to imagine they sip a string of spaghetti and then sing ooh to get the larynx to drop. Then we're going to do a wah, 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 like a bratty kid and, taunting another kid on the playground. And that allows the larynx to go up high. And then I want you to try to keep it neutral so it doesn't really move a lot. And we're just going to do blah, 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 trying to maintain the timbre of the voice. So the series sounds like this. Ooh, wah, 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 blah, 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 blah. Ooh, wah, 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 blah, 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 blah. Ooh, wah, 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 blah, 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 blah. We're going through that series again to make sure that the larynx remains flexible, because as a musical theater performer, you need your actor to lead the way. And so if I, as an actor, am making a choice to push somebody away in a scene, I need my larynx to be free enough to lift a little bit as I tell them, get out, right? If my larynx is just locked low because I never exercise it in any other direction and I say, get out, that's not going to have that musical theater, natural, realistic vocal quality that we're looking for, okay? So that's why we do that exercise. And then what we want to do is get the soft palate moving in multiple directions. First on NG, which gets the soft palate all the way down. Then we're going to go to a hooty, ah vowel, and ha, that gets the soft palate all the way up. And then we're going to go to some more of a French nasal O, ah, which gets the palate like right in the middle. So it's a little down, and but not all the way down as the NG. Put those together. Right? Just making sounds. We're not trying to get performance sounds here at all. We're just making sure everything's capable of moving. Okay? Then what I want to do is make sure that your constrictor muscles are staying out of the way. So we're just going to do a couple of these to remind your body what constriction feels like. You're going to do goog, 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 goog. And you're going to feel that tension creep in, okay? Goog, 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 goog. Goog, 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 goog. And what I want you to remember is that's not what we want, right? So this is called negative practice. You're showing your body what you don't want it to do and then showing it what you do want it to do. And what you do want it to do is have the freedom to relax open as if you were laughing. So after that goog, we want to do a ha 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 ha. So we're going to do that, just joyful laugh. Ha 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 ha. Making sure that everything's out of the way. Okay? Then what we want to do is make sure that we're practicing, again, going back to that closed vowel, open vowel, but really focusing on the mouth opening. So I want to find an ah, followed by a drop jaw as if I could put fingers in between my molars. Ah, 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 ah. Get everything moving. Then what I want to do is start putting it to word phrases, and you can make these up. You can add other ones in there. I have my stock ones I tend to go to. And what we want to do in this word phrase is start thinking as an actor what you're trying to do. So we want to put it in a context. So we're going to say, I said, go away. All right. So imagine you are, out in a public space and somebody is, bothering you and you don't want to make a big scene, but you want to make sure that they understand, leave me alone. It's like, you're in the middle of like a Starbucks and somebody in line is harassing you. You're like, I said, go away. You want to press them back, give them a shove back, but you want to kind of maintain your control so that other people don't hear what you're doing. So to do that, we're going to want to use a strong, more chest dominant sound, but with that closed vowel, right? Because we want to think about this personal space situation. So we're going to say, I said, go away. I said, go away. I said, go away. I said, go away. And we want to then make sure that our vocal tract is doing everything that we need it to do in that moment, right? So I had the larynx bouncing. I want the larynx to be maybe a little bit more neutral. I need the back to be open. So I want to make sure the palate's up more towards that hooty ah vowel, and I need the lips to be closed to get that sound. Then I want to pick a different one that's more in the opposite direction. And for that one, I'm going to say, I said, stay away. And at this moment, the person's not getting the hint, and you want other people to hear, including maybe the police that are, 20 foot away, to know that you need help. So in that instance, you really let it rip. I said, stay away. I said, stay away. I said, stay away. I said, stay away. All right. That's getting that body, again, to respond. We're getting that jaw to open up. The larynx shoots up a little bit as we try to then really push somebody away or throw them out of our way. And it starts getting the brain to think of your voice as responding to the actor and not just making sounds. Okay? So go play with those ideas. I think those are some essential daily exercises that will make sure that you're always staying flexible. They're not necessarily geared towards like a specific technical goal, but rather a voice, getting your voice flexible enough and working automatically in a way so that the actor can take over and drive the ship.
Yeah, that's great. Jordan, great question. Matt, awesome breakdown. Definitely stay flexible. Got to have a couple different exercises you try. And if you are trying these at home and anything hurts, please stop. That's where you definitely need a coach to find out and work with you. And some of these exercises, Matt's giving you kind of the general exercises that should work for everyone. But obviously, these things do need custom tailored. And that's where working with the coach and getting specifically finding out where your muscles are weak, right? Because Matt went over all these different muscles that are happening. A lot of us, we can't see that. That's why you got to study it, take a course, or actually open up the anatomy book. So, Jordan, thanks for the question. There's another one. Matt, do you want to take Sarah's?
Sure.
Okay, so Sarah writes in. Sarah, thanks for tuning in again. It's a regular. So Sarah writes in, how can you extend the range of your chest voice?
All right, so good question, Sarah. So without hearing you, this is a little bit tricky. All right. So I'm going to, first of all, for everybody, let's actually just talk about weight of the voice, okay? If you listen to me talk, I've got a heavy voice. Now, you can't tell this looking at me on Facebook or on YouTube, wherever you're tuning in and watching this, but I'm 6'4", okay? So as somebody who's 6'4", there's a lot of throat in here, and I've got some pretty big vocal folds. Now, if you look at, one of our students who's like 5'4", right? We have a tenor that's 5'4". His neck is way shorter than me. His head is smaller than mine. So he's got a smaller vocal tract. He's got smaller vocal folds as well. So that's going to come into play. And for somebody who's got thick vocal folds like me, the chest register is going to be really heavy. But if we get Mike on the screen and have Mike then, sing in his chest voice, you're going to hear that it's a little bit lighter. So Mike, why don't you show where more of your chest voice is? So if I do, that's like my chest, then Mike, do yours.
Sure.
He's got a different weight to it, right? So that's a natural anatomy difference between Mike and I. And I've got a few inches of height on top of Mike, right?
And so, not 6'4".
No, right? But so, I've got these thicker vocal folds that give me a heavier chest. That's his version of chest, and his is a lighter chest. He's got high notes I wish I had, right? So everybody gets their gifts and gets their blessings. I'd love to be a tenor. So you've got to keep that in mind, Sarah, and as I talk about this, is that if your voice is on the lighter side of the spectrum, your chest voice isn't going to go up as high as somebody who's on the heavier side. And so if we want to look into pop culture.
Or you might not even have any chest voice, which, in my case, when I first started taking lessons, there was no chest voice. You actually have to go down there and work at it. It can take 6 months to find it. So don't fret if you're just trying to find it. It's definitely something you have to work at.
Yeah. And so, the first thing is, so let's go ahead and do that. Sarah, it sounds like you've already found yours, but you want to extend it. But for anybody else watching, we'll go ahead and talk about how to find it in the first place. A lot of times, the easiest way to find it is through primal instinct. And so primal instinct means it's this thing that's just ingrained in us. Nobody has to teach us how to do. Okay, so let's say you're watching a young kid. They're playing in the yard. They kick a ball into the street. They go running after the ball. You see a car coming down the street. You're not going to sit there and think to yourself, how do I engage my chest voice? How do I use my breath support? I don't know. No, you just say, stop. And you yell real quick and the kid hears you and they stop and everything's safe, right? Well, that's primal instinct. You didn't have to think about how to call out or yell. You just did it because your body knows how. So one of the easiest ways to discover chest voice, if you don't think that you have one or you haven't found it yet, is just practice calling. Imagine you got a friend across a field and you want to get their attention. You go, hey, that sound that comes out when you call, if it's firm and strong, that's chest voice, right? Or some variation of a chest mix, right? Because if you take it up higher in pitch, it's more likely to be chest mix. So you want to find that. Then we want to start in the lower part of your range with just solid pitches on staccato to really train those muscles to bring the folds together to strengthen that chest voice. All right, so what we're going to do is go down here into the bottom part. Is this? Yeah, I have a messed up button on my keyboard. Let me reset this here. So I'm on the A, below middle C. This would be for more estrogen dominant singers. And for a more testosterone dominant singer, it's going to be down here at the D. So baritones and tenors are going to be down here more around the C, D, E range, an octave below middle C. And altos or mezzos and sopranos or contraltos, you're going to want to start around this A below middle C. And we're just going to begin with staccati. Ha, 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 ha. Because when you're doing that, the muscles that are responsible for pulling those vocal folds together to give you chest register are being engaged. And so that's going to coordinate and strengthen them so you get the ability to use this part of your voice. You're going to do that up and down, basically up to the E above middle C, and then bring it back down. We don't want to go too much above E to start. After you've done some staccati, I want you to do staccati and pulse like 3 to 4 times and then sustain the note on ah. So we're going to do ah, 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 ah. And you're going to hold it as long as comfortable. That's going to start the process of building you some strength and stamina in that part of your voice. All right. You want to let go as soon as you feel like you're about to run out of breath. We don't want to train your body to sing with tension. If you feel any tightness starting to creep in, cut it off at that point. Eventually, you'll be able to sing longer without the tension creeping in. Only as long as it feels good and is comfortable. You're going to do that again up to that E above middle C, and you're going to bring it down. Then what we're going to do is start to rock this chest voice. We're going to first start rocking it on a 1-2-1. And a lot of singers find it helpful to use their hands as a reference point to think of them starting in full chest and starting to thin out ever so slightly and come back. So on a 1-2-1, it's just a tiny thinning out. Ah, then we're going to take that up. Ah, going to work that up. And now you can start to stretch it up maybe to F and then start to bring it back down. You're going to want to do that. And then you want to expand to thirds. So 1-3-1. Take your time, right? You want to give your body enough time to start to coordinate and strengthen these muscles. If you try to rush it, you're not going to get the results you want. You could end up with tension. So keep it free. If the E feels good, try the F. If the F feels good, try the F sharp. If the F sharp feels good, try the G. Let's say the G doesn't feel good. I don't want you to try it again immediately. I want you to go back to the F sharp. So you would do a glide to that F sharp. Right? Then you would go back and do a glide to the F. Then you would go back to the F sharp. And then you would try the G again. Let's say the G feels good. Then you'll do the G again and see if the A flat's there. Let's say the G doesn't feel good. Then that's a sign that your body's telling you right now that's a physiological limit. So you'll go back and spend the rest of your practice session working on everything up to F sharp. And this is how you're going to do this work day after day. You're going to go up and see where it goes. And once you find that note where it doesn't really want to hit, you're going to go back and work out the 2 to 3 notes below it, bouncing down, then bouncing back up. And you might want to do a couple repetitions. So like if G was the problem, I might want to do up to an F sharp, up to an F, up to an E, up to an F, up to an F sharp, up to an F, up to an E, up to an F, up to an F sharp, and then try the G again. All right? Sometimes just that repetition is just programming your brain that this is what I do, this is what I do, this is what I do. Then you go to the G and that's what your body does. And that tells you it's just a coordination thing. Your body just wasn't sure how to coordinate it. You repeated things enough, your body went, oh, I got it, and it happened. If it doesn't just happen, then that tells you it's more of a muscular thing, that your brain's not able to send a strong enough signal down to contract that muscle. Maybe the muscle's not strong enough. And so we don't want to keep trying to pound it because pounding a note that's not there is not going to strengthen it. All right, it's just kind of like weightlifting. If you set a goal for yourself to bench press 200 pounds, you don't walk into the gym and just start bench pressing 200 pounds until you get it. You're just going to drop the bar on your chest and hurt yourself. Well, if you just keep slamming your chest voice up to a note that doesn't want to work yet, you're just going to end up hurting yourself. So instead, we go to the gym and we go, well, I can lift 100, so I'll lift 100. Then I'll start lifting 110. Then I'll start lifting 120. And then I'll lift 130. And by the time you lift 130, 150 should be doable. But you're going to still work on 130, then 140, and then 150 will be really easy. And when 150 is really easy, 170 should be doable. Then you're going to keep working up until you get to your goal. So you're going to carry your chest voice up, working just like a weightlifter would, right? At some point, you are going to reach a physiological max, okay? And this varies for everyone, okay? I have some students, the physiological max is that G. And anything above G, they really need to mix. They're lighter voices, their body just doesn't do well. It doesn't sound good either. You listen to it, you're like, it's just not you. It doesn't sound right. It doesn't, the sound coming out and the look of who you are and the songs you sing, it doesn't all go together. So, mix into that spot. Whereas I have other singers who can chest all the way up to D's, and I had one once that could chest F sharps, this high F sharp, all day long. To the point that I didn't, her dad was a voice teacher too, and her dad asked me, is this really safe? I said, she never fatigues. I said, I'll tell you what, I'm going to do a whole lesson with her, and we're only going to sing the highest belt song she has in her book. And if she makes it through an hour, I'll tell you, yeah, it's safe. This girl sounded better at an hour into her lesson than she did at the beginning of her lesson, carrying up more chest voice than I've ever heard any other woman carry up into the upper part of her voice. She'd been singing since she was 3 years old, right? Her dad is, the head of a voice department at a major performing arts high school. And so, she was surrounded by singers her whole life and was always doing it. Her parents had like a praise and worship band that they were always singing with. So she grew up singing. She had like vocal cords of steel. She's a rarity, a real rarity, right? So, it's hard to say what your limit's going to be just by talking to you on this, but I would say, expand. For most, I would say estrogen dominant singers, about B flat. B flat's usually about the limit. Some can hit B, C's, and every once in a while a D. But above B flat, I usually suggest you're trying to mix. And so that's the next important thing to remember, is that most of the time when you're listening to these singers who sound like they're, in a chesty part of their voice and they're belting, they are actually, mixing. And so great. So you're asking what mixing is. Overtones and resonance. Well, it's a little bit of it. There's also a vocal fold component as well. So what we know is that you have, that I've mentioned here earlier in the show today, is we have all the muscles that help pull the vocal folds together and regulate whether they're firmly pressed together or lightly pressed together. That's a component of mixing. If the vocal folds start getting way past 50% closed in a cycle of vibration, okay? So air comes up from the bottom, the vocal folds are blown apart, and then they come back together, okay? So we have ways to measure how much during like a cycle of vibration the vocal folds are actually closed versus how much time air is moving through and they're not closed. We call it the closed quotient, okay? And that closed quotient is going to determine how chesty or heady or mixy your voice sounds. When we start getting into the high 50%, meaning that 50% of the time or 58% of the time, 60% of the time your vocal folds are closed in these cycles of vibration, then that's going to be a real chest dominant sound. But there's studies showing that even at 51 and 52% closure, we perceive that as being more of a chest dominant mix. All right. And then when we drop down into more of the 40s at like 48, 47, 46% closure, we start getting more into head dominant mix and head qualities. Right. And so this can vary person to person again. And, the thing is that in the classical music world, people really want to codify things. Right. In fact, the Germans had an entire what they call Fox system where they would say, well, you're this kind of singer and you're that kind of singer and you're that kind of singer. So for centuries, voice teachers have wanted to classify singers as to being certain things. But, in other cultures around the world that aren't the Western European culture, you're just a singer and you can sing a song or you can't. And we don't obsess about it. Right. And so I think that we have to also realize that these labels are our feeble attempt to put people in boxes, when the reality is in commercial styles and musical theater, you don't live in a box, right? You don't want to. You want to be unique. And so what we want to be able to do when we're mixing is make the transition when we're ready to that keeps us from sounding like we're screaming, okay? So let's say in my voice, I want to sing this little phrase that goes, I'll be there. Now that's real shouty. It sounds kind of yelly if I really hit it. I'll be there. Well, that's a pure belt in my voice, right? It's really like edgy and it's harsh and it sounds like I'm shouting. I have too much vocal fold closure. What I need to do is thin out a little bit. I need to feel like I'm not going, ah, but instead I'm going, ah, where I'm letting a little more air go through. I'm getting my folds to lighten up ever so slightly. You asked if it's overtones or resonance. Yes and no. When I'm in chest voice, I send more what are called harmonics through the vocal tract, which will make certain parts of my voice peak. But if I don't change the vowel shape, well, I'm not really changing the resonance. I'm just changing the vocal folds running through the same pipe. So yelling through the same pipe is, I'll be there. And then mixing at my vocal fold level through the same pipe is this, I'll be there. Right? It's a lot lighter. It sounds like it's doable. So we got, I'll be there, for to me there's no sorrow. It's lightening up. It's letting it just relax into that sound instead of feeling like I have to gun it. Now, microphones can make this tricky because microphones enhance the forward ringy part of the voice. So when I mix on a mic, it can end up sounding like it's a big belt quality, but it's not. It's all smoke and mirrors. It's just the mic making it sound like it's more powerful. Okay? That actually is a vocal fold adjustment. I'm changing that close quotient from something that's probably in the high 50s to something that's in the lower 50s. And by doing that, I reduce some of the pressure, I take away some of the yell quality, and I start to get into more of a healthy belt quality. Okay? Now, there are different ways that we can make resonance adjustments. All right? When people are first learning how to sing, sometimes bringing a hint of nasality into the sound can help them. All right? I'm trying to sing. So let's say I want to sing this faithfully. Now, mind you, Sarah and everybody else watching, I'm really a baritone, but most people aren't. So I try to sing up here to at least demo sounds for you. I'm not a tenor. But let's say for some reason I had to sing this song. So if I'm going up with it with just a big open vowel, it sounds like this. They say that a road ain't no place to start a family. It feels kind of harsh. It sounds kind of harsh. And my soft palate's really up. It's a lot of pressure. Doesn't feel good. But if I put a little bit of French nasal O inside of it, that opening of my soft palate will reduce pressure on my vocal folds because it changes the shape of the resonator and the way the air pressure cycles inside of my vocal tract. So using a no can help. No. It's automatically less yelly and it feels better. So then I can even sing with that hint of nasality to start when I'm first learning how to mix. They say that a road ain't no place to start a family. And that feels so much better. Then what I want to do through time is see how much of that nasality I can take out and still stay in that lighter mix without going back to that yelly sound. Okay? So yeah, sometimes when we're learning to mix, we're going to make resonance adjustments. But ideally, we want to get onto the other side where we can make, those adjustments at the vocal fold level, keep the resonator into a more speech-like place and get the sound that we want. They say that a road ain't no place to start a family. That's the best my voice is going to do as a baritone, but it's less shouty, it's less nasally, it's somewhere in the middle. And if somebody handed me that song and said, hey, I need you to sing this, I can get through it and it's not going to hurt. Okay? And then that's where we then get into the point is when you know you can get through things, it doesn't hurt, you're able to vary up your registration and your vowel, that's when you start picking keys, and that's when you start figuring out all the other stuff and going, yeah, I got an F sharp, but I'm a baritone, not a tenor, so I'm not trying to go and do that song in that key, or I'm not trying to do that roll. I'm going to do this one instead. And then we make those adjustments. Okay? So I hope that helps a little bit, Sarah. Thanks for tuning in again. It's great to see you coming back on the show. Hopefully those things will help. And as you do start to get into mix, and if you go back in our archives, you can probably find some videos where we've talked about how to mix and, some of the pathways to do that. You can check YouTube. You may also want to check our Facebook page because I think some of those may be on the Facebook page and not the YouTube page. So check that out. And I think there was a whole episode we did once on mixing. And if you can't find us, let us know. But hopefully that'll help you start playing around with some new ideas and see what you discover.
Awesome. Sarah, great questions. Thanks for tuning in again and keep your questions coming. We're glad to see you back. Now we have one other question here about lyrics and enunciation.
Great. Yeah, I'm happy to take that.
Okay, this one comes in from Joe. How to improve clarity in words while singing lyrics, how to improve enunciation.
Good. All right. So, Joe, what this basically tells me is that you have a lack of coordination in your articulators, and that lack of coordination is making it difficult for you to get the words out in the way that you want. Now, as I say this, I don't know what your style is or, what genres you're playing with, what you're trying to do, and that makes a big difference, right? For somebody who is, trying to do something, more like emo, then you may have a lot more mumbly diction or something that's real indie singer-songwriter, and it's like a low energy emotional state of being. You might not want your diction super clear. But if it's something more upbeat, fast, hyper rock and roll, or rhythmically driven, or rap, hip hop, R&B, you may want it to be more articulated. So, you're going to have to take what I'm giving you in a general setting and apply it to your genre. So the first thing I want you to do is to make sure that your tongue is free and not being pulled back, because in a lot of singers, that tongue gets pulled back and it just messes up everything and it causes the kind of problems you're talking about. So you're going to stick your tongue out on your bottom lip and you're just going to vocalize in this tongue out position. It looks like this. Now, as you're doing that, you want to make sure that this muscle, it's called the masseter muscle, doesn't start to engage on you. And so if you start feeling tightness in your jaw, that tells you that muscle is engaging. And if that happens, I want you to take your fists or your knuckles or your fingers like this and massage that muscle and keep it out of the way. You'll know it when you push it on the cheek and it's tight, you'll feel it. So I'd be going, So we're keeping that tongue out. We're vocalizing it up and down, okay? Then we want to start getting your tongue to move in the way that's going to need to move to pronounce different vowels and consonants. The first thing we're going to want to do is the tip of your tongue. We're going to do the la, 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 la. Now, we need to isolate the movement of your tongue from the movement of your jaw. So you're going to use Home Alone face, hi-hat, and you're just going to get the tip of your tongue to go up behind your upper teeth. La, 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 la. And we're just going to do that on steady pitches. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. La, 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 la. Right? We do la's, t's, d's, n's, all up in that upper, part of the roof of your mouth with the tip of your tongue. So doing that exercise is getting your tongue agile enough to do that. Now, don't be surprised if when you go to do this, this is what your tongue does. Ah, I see it all the time. If that's the case, you're going to grab a mirror. You're going to take the mirror and you're going to watch your tongue and you're going to go through it in slow motion.
You're going to make some funny sounds, guys, and some funny things. You just got to get over yourself.
Yeah, right? It is. It's going to be funny, but at the end of the day, it's going to coordinate everything out. So you're going to really slow it down to get the tongue in the right spot, doing la, 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 la. And you're going to do it as slow as you can until you can get it fast. La, 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 la. All right? It's going to take you a while to get to that point. Just take the time. Then we want to make sure the back of the tongue is bouncing. To do that, we're going to do the same thing, but now with ga. All right? Now, ga sometimes gets pronounced way in the back. Ga, 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 ga. We don't want it there. We want it to feel like your tongue is as far forward as possible to make a ga sound. Ga, 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 ga. So it's going to be bright. That brightness will help the tongue move forward. Ga, 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 ga. Ga, 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 ga. Now, the tongue's going to bounce a little bit on this, but we want to try to make sure that it doesn't bounce a whole lot, okay? Now, after you get that ga working, we now want to combine the ga and the la. We're going to do that on single pitches. Ga la ga la ga la ga la ga. Ga la ga la ga la ga la ga. Ga la ga la ga la ga la ga. Ga la ga la ga la ga la ga. And you get it as fast as you can. Ga la 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 ga. All right, just get it going as quick as possible. You're going to do that. You can take this exercise when it starts feeling more comfortable. If you want to take it up a notch, you're going to want to do it across pitch ranges. La 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 ga 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 la ga la ga la ga la ga la ga la ga. Making sure that all those tongue movements are free throughout your range. Then we can take you through some other tongue articulation exercises that are going to engage a few of the other consonants. I like starting off with this Gala series. It seems to work for a lot of people. Then the next one we're going to do is do deedle daddle deedle daddle do. Deedle daddle deedle daddle do. Deedle daddle deedle daddle do. Again, you probably have to start slow. I tend to do these fast because I've been doing them for years. But deedle daddle deedle daddle do. Deedle daddle deedle daddle do. Then we can do a B. Beetle battle beetle battle boom. Beetle battle beetle battle boom. We can do an F. Fetal, faddle, foam. Fetal, faddle, foam. You do a K. Keto, cattle, comb. Keto, cattle, comb. You do a T. Teetle, tattle, tome. Teetle, tattle, tome. Then we could put them all together on the same pitch. All right? So we could do in deedle, deen. We can do deedle, daddle, beetle, battle, fetal, faddle, teetle, tattle, keto, cattle, comb. Deedle, daddle, fiddle, faddle, fetal, faddle, beetle, battle, teetle, tattle, keto, cattle, comb. And take it up and down throughout your range like that. Okay? By doing all these tongue articulation exercises, you're going to start realizing that tongue, you're going to find out what the tongue isn't capable of doing. And then you're going to start to learn how much better it works when you've, done these drills over and over and over every day. And that should start getting it a lot easier to get the words out. And then the last thing I want to leave you with is to really understand where vowels and consonants are formed. A lot of people think they're formed in the back of their mouth because in the choral settings, a lot of times people will say stuff about keeping the vowels in the back, warming it up. That's because in a choir, they're trying to homogenize all your voices. They don't want unique voices. They don't want voices standing out. They want a uniform sound. So they'll say things like this, but those consonants are not produced in the back of your mouth. All right. Even vowel quality. Yes, the back is part of it, but the entire vowel isn't in the back. The vowel is a combination of movements in the back and in the front of the hump of your tongue. Okay. So I want you to say that gee, or a ga, and pay attention where your tongue touches the roof of your mouth. That's the middle of the roof of your mouth. That's the hump of your tongue. So it's about right there. I want you to keep all of your words in front of the hump of the tongue. Everything behind the hump of the tongue really contributes to timbre, how warm or bright your voice is. Yeah, it has some impact on vowel, but not as much impact as everything from the middle of the tongue forward, right? Because when the middle of the tongue is arched all the way up, that's an E vowel. When it starts to drop, we go through I and A and A, and then eventually we get down to A. But on A, that middle of the tongue is flattened out. Then we start using our lips to do things like aw and o and oo, but the tongue is still flat. But again, all of that's happening in front of the hump of the tongue, not behind it. All right. And if you think about your consonants, besides a few like an or a k that happen in the back, a lot of them, like we were just doing in that deedle daddle, and beetle battle, that's all in the front of your mouth. So then when you come into a song, you want to make sure that it's all up in the front. If it gets in the back, we get this. I met this girl late last year. She said, don't you worry if I disappear. I said, no, I'm not really looking for another mistake. And it weights us down. But if I can get it in that la la la, la 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 la, all of a sudden I can hear that clarity starting to creep out. Then I just put the words into that spot. I met this girl late last year. She said, don't you worry if I disappear. I said, no, I'm not really looking for another mistake. Called an old friend thinking that the trouble would wait. Right? And they just fall out of my mouth. So go through those exercise combinations, see where they take you. And, check back in with us and let us know if that's not enough. Give it time. This is a motor skill. So a motor skill is something where your brain has to build neurological connections that go to the muscles that you're trying to target to send the signal so that the muscle can engage immediately. Oftentimes, just to learn the skill in the first place takes 6 to 8 weeks. Okay? 6 to 8 weeks. Right?
How much practice?
I would say a good idea would be 30 minutes a day. So, on these articulation things, people can do 15 minutes a day and it's usually enough. But I mean, practicing in general, you should be trying to get 30 minutes.
Some of these articulation drills, if you're driving out there, you got to commute and stuff as the world resumes.
Yeah, right.
You can do these in the car type of thing, but you got to do it for a couple of weeks. Don't just come in and be like, I tried it twice and articulators didn't work out.
Yeah, but like 10 minutes a day, 15 minutes a day, you should see a lot of improvement in your ability to get your tongue doing things. And another one that's fun is like go on to YouTube and find some beatboxing tutorials, because beatboxing is all about learning how to do that. And then you can just beatbox along, learn how to go, right? Yeah. Learn to do that. And you're really going to free up those articulators, right? And so, a good play.
If you're getting stuck, a lot of that is just tension, right, in the muscles. So a lot of these drills are just to build freedom and, like you say, in coordination in the motor skills. So if you do have like a situation where a singer has maybe the registration is really not in a good spot, air's leaking out, things like that, then definitely articulation is one of the kind of the finishing touch, right? It's the it's the bell of the horn if you kind of compare a voice to a brass instrument.
Yeah.
So yes, you can work on it, but if you've got something further, bigger going on, maybe Joe, then check. We definitely have some videos on registration and things like that. So you might need to do a combo punch with articulation and registration.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. Absolutely.
Okay, cool. I think we're out of time. We have a couple
I
more
think so
questions,
too.
Matt, but we're going to save those for next week.
I like it. Let's do that.
Okay, great. I just wanted to say, Sarah, thanks for tuning in. Wow, 1 a.m. That is a committed fan right there. So we look forward to seeing you each week. Esther, Jordan, thanks for your questions. Joe, thank you too. And Matt, do you have any final thoughts for everybody?
No, I mean, as Mike said, we're starting to get back to normalcy here, which is a really nice thing. So, hang in there. We're almost seeing the finishing line. I know that I'll tell you this, that's really exciting. Broadway shows and Broadway tours are now casting and hiring people. I have several students that have just booked leads in national tours. They have contracts. They have work coming up. And, that's really, really, really exciting to know that people are, signing the dotted line and getting ready to head out on the road. So, hey, we're almost there. We're almost done.
Absolutely. Well, thanks everyone for tuning in. Have a great week, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.